All right, time for another art experiment. So I found an old cabinet door made out of veneered MDF lying around, so I cut that into a couple of rectangles, and we're gonna see if we can make some cool looking mandalas. Let's take a look. Today we're gonna be looking at how to make these cool wood and resin mandalas. So the first thing to do was to come up with a design idea. So I decided to just do a bunch of overlapping circles using a compass, which was something I had seen online, and I thought it would be fairly simple to use the router to make that design. I got some finishing nails and I just cut the heads off, and I used those as my pivot point. So I hammered those finishing nails in to the center of each of the drawn circles that I had made with the compass, and then using my trimming router and a V-bit, I just put that little bar, I drilled a few holes in it so that it would pivot in the right place, and I just turned it on, and then I rotated it in a complete circle, and then I would move it over to the next one, take the nail out and put the nail in the center of the next circle, and they all kind of overlapped as I went. This was the smaller mandala out of the two, so it was a little bit simpler. It had a little bit less of a design. The larger one, I also freehanded some petals on the outside of it. So then you brush it off and you can see how the circles are working there. So here's the larger one, and you can see that I'm taking the little trimming nail out each time and repositioning it in one of the new circle centers as I rotate the entire thing around. And then here I am just freehanding some petals at the end to give it a little bit more detail. And I drilled some little holes with a Forstner bit just as an extra added detail as well. So I did two slightly different but similar designs, one a little bigger. This is the smaller of the two. And now we're just going to take a look at trying to put some colored resin in the grooves and see what that looks like. So I'm just going to mix up about 20 mils of resin. I don't feel like I need that much for this because the grooves are not very deep. So the resin that I've bought is a 50-50 or 1-to-1 mix. So here we go. So I'm just pouring in 10 milliliters of each one into one of my little mixing cups, and then I'm just going to mix it up with a stick for a couple minutes. And after we've mixed it for 1 minute, we're going to add our color. So I'm going to add a little bit of metallic silver. And this stuff goes a long way, so you don't really need very much. And a little bit of green. And this you need even less of, believe it or not. And then we're going to stir that up for another minute, and you'll be able to see it start to turn green and silver, and it's really just a couple drops. That's plenty. Next, I'm going to pour the mixture into a syringe so that I have good control over it as I'm pouring it out. I'm just going to block the end there and pour it in this end. And then I found a little bit's going to squidge out when I put the plunger in, so I'm going to put that back in the container. I'll lose a little bit, but I can suck that up later if I need it. And then we're going to get rid of the air by tipping it this way. Okay, we can suck the rest of that back up. And then we can start putting it on to our mandala. And so I'm just carefully squishing it into the little circle at the end, and then I'm running down each one of the tracks, trying to keep it almost as little as possible, but still keeping sort of a stream coming out of the syringe as I go. There are a few little spots you can see where there's gaps, and I will go back over those and ensure that I fill them in at the end. And then I kind of give a little shake there just to make sure that everything kind of evens itself out. So here's how the bigger of the two turned out, and at a quick glance from far away, it actually looks pretty cool. But if you look a little closer, you can see that some of the dye that I mixed in with the resin has bled out into the grain of the wood in some places. So this is a learning experience. It's all an art experiment. I think in the future what I might do is just get some metallic blue paint and paint the bottom of the groove with paint, and then pour a clear resin over top of the paint, and I think that might help to eliminate that bleed through into the grain. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. The second smaller one I did has much less bleeding. There's a little bit there. I think this is a result of the fact that I put less dye in this one, and I also filled the grooves not quite as deep as the blue one. So that might be an idea for future projects as well. Hope you enjoyed this little art experiment. On to the next one.